Very good morning. This is Jayamani from K.S. Rangasamy College of Technology. In this video, we are going to cover the overview of general purpose input output. The outline of this video covering the introduction of general purpose input output, functionality of general purpose input output, and then where we are using applications of general purpose input output. Introduction to general purpose input output. So before moving to that topic, so what is general purpose input output? Usually these general purpose input output are present in the microcontroller or some single board computers. We were recently using the Raspberry Pi Adreno ESP32. So those single board computers having the input output pins like a port. So we know that what is the port. Port is nothing but that the bunch of pins aligned with the in a group. So that is the port. So the port pins are act as a general purpose input output. Sometimes these general purpose input output pins are multifunctional, that is do some multiple functionality. These general purpose input output pins are used for the digital. It going to act as the zeros and ones. The basics of general purpose input output, it acts most of the time. These general purpose input output pins interfacing between a microcontroller and then external devices. For example, I have to sense the temperature of a room. So how do I sense? With the sensor, with the temperature sensor, I'm going to observe the room temperature. These room temperatures informations are to feed to the microcontroller with the help of the any one of the input output pins. So like that, our external world, external environmental informations are feed to the microcontroller with the help of the input output pins which is present in your microcontroller or microprocessor. This microcontroller uh, general purpose input output pins have two different modes. One is the input mode, another one is the output mode. So already what I mentioned in the example, from that you may be observe whether it act as an input or output. For example, if the general purpose input output pins act as an input mode, which sense we are reading the information of our external, or we are getting some interrupts through some uh, buttons. For example, you have a washing machine, you have a microwave oven. We need some push buttons or some buttons for controlling or to adjust the temperature or some thing, right? So these buttons and then sensors informations are given to the microcontroller. That is, at the time we are configure that particular port pin as the input mode. Output mode is from the microcontroller we are giving some information to the outside world, so externally. So output mode, so for example, controlling the LED, I'm going to control the fan, I want to adjust the AC temperature. So these are all at the time I am configuring my microcontroller pin act as a output mode. So these configured as a pull up and then pull down. This pin configuration usually we have two different levels. One is the 0, another one is the high. These high and low level act as a input and output mode. That depends on the microcontroller when they are going to manufactured, they were mentioned. If it is a high, it act as a input mode. If it is a 0, if it act as a output mode. So that we need to study from that particular microcontroller datasheet. The voltage level of your general purpose input output pin is 3.3 volt. For example, if usually we are using the Raspberry Pi and then Arduino. For Raspberry Pi, 3.3 volt is your voltage level for your input output pins. For Arduino, 5 volt. Suppose if I am going to feed the higher level what specified in the datasheet, that particular port or particular pin is going to damage. These port pins are configured or controlled via writing some codes. Usually Python and then C or embedded C program. With the help of the program, we can easily configure the particular port pin, or that is general purpose input output pin may be configured as an input or output. Already we mentioned, we are just detailed about the input mode. General purpose input output mode, we are going to read the external signals, for example button sensors. Uses the pull up pull down resistor to avoid the floating states, for example reading a push button state, right? Similarly, for the output mode, we are control the external devices, LED, buzzers, motor, etc. We can toggle high or low. For example, usually the general purpose input output pins providing the signal as a digital high or low. For example, if I am going to give the high level of one from that particular port pin, general purpose input output pin, if I am going to configure as an output pin and then I'm going to connect with the LED, it's going to blink. Suppose if I am going to provide zero signal, the LED is going to off. Alternatively, if I am going to connect with the motor, if I am going to give the 1, the motor is going to run. If it is 0, motor is going to stop their functionality. So how we these things are, we can provide informations with the help of the coding, embedded C code or Python. After that, so that is general purpose input output pin having the another phase. This general purpose input output pin having some some multi functionality. Sometimes it act as a communication protocol, I2C. So inter-integrated circuit, you know that inter-integrated circuits communicate with multiple devices inside the PCB board, and then serial peripheral interface. So faster communication, usually we are going to use it for display and sensors, UART. So if you read that particular microcontroller data sheet, port informations, you may be observed a number of multifunctionalities have combined in a particular pin, so that we can extract it with the help of the configuring the specific registers or specific bits. Example for your general purpose input outputs: home automation, smart lights, sensors, robotic to control the motor and sensing some signals, industrial automation, relay control, and then familiarly we are using the Internet of Things devices. uh, this particular slide gives how we can configure the port pins in STM32 microcontroller. So this particular program I'm going to give small information how we can configure for the STM32 microcontroller. So you have a STM32. Suppose if you look into the STM32 microcontroller discovery board, in this discovery board, a number of pins were pulled out. So these particular port pins are grouped, and they were named as a port A, port B, port C, port D, right? If I am considering the port A 0 as an input pin, which means I'm going to give information to that microcontroller, STM32 microcontroller. For example, if I am going to connect the button in that particular port pin, so PS0 is port A0th pin. So how do I configure? So in this particular microcontroller, they have a register called mode R, which means nothing but the directional register. So in this particular direction register, I am going to configure the port A0th pin to be configured as an input mode. So that code I have mentioned here. So general purpose input output mode are third pin, so as a input mode. Similarly, for if I am going to make the configuration of port A fifth pin as output, so you just refer these two codes, configure port A0 as an input button, configure port A5 as an output. So from this particular pin, if you connect the LED, it will going to react. If you are going to connect the motor, it's going to react, right? So here 0 and then 5 represents the 0th pin and 5th pin. So the shift left shift symbol is nothing but we are shifting to the third, right? So the mode or register controls the mode of each pins, right? So if I'm going to port a 0 means input mode, 01 means output mode. So this is the right side of the slide gives the small info program of toggling the port A0 and then port A5. So if I'm going to check the condition of the general purpose input output directional register, if it is 0, if the button is pressed, so in this button port A0 the pin is low, general purpose input output ODR, if turned on the LED, for example high, port A fifth pin high, else it's turn off the LED and then turn off the LED port A5. So this is about the overview of the general purpose input output. Final conclusion of about the general purpose input output, we are enables the hardware interaction for the project. It can be used in embedded system, IoT and automation. Learning general purpose input output opens doors to the electronics and programming. Thank you.